Powerlifting is a game of kilos. The kilos on the bar as well as the kilos on the scale. As with any other sport that divides its competitors into weight classes, it's usually better to be the heaviest lifter in one class rather than the lightest in the next one. It's similar to the competitive advantage kids get when they're among the oldest in their age group rather than the youngest. But in the pursuit of that advantage, the pressure to cut weight to compete in a lower weight class can put athletes at risk for disordered eating. My name is Jeremy Colon, and this is The Dark Side of Fitness, Episode 17. Female powerlifters face an additional challenge. Their sport requires maximal strength per pound of body weight. Training for that goal builds serious muscle, but while that muscle helps them succeed on the platform, it may conflict with their image of an ideal body. And that brings to the topic of this review, a new study in Psychology of Sport and Exercise that looked at disordered eating in competitive female powerlifters. The study participants, 17 women based in the United Kingdom who compete in powerlifting at the national or international level. Average age, 22.8. Average hours of trainings per week, 10.5. Weight classes, 47 to 72 kilograms, 103.4 to 158.4 pounds. Average total for the squat, bench press, and deadlift, 311.5 kilograms, about 685.3 pounds. How the study worked. The researchers conducted what's called a semi-structured interview, in which each participant is asked a series of open-ended questions, whether on Skype or in person. The participants were encouraged to discuss both the good and bad aspects of their experience, and were given time at the end to add anything they felt was important but wasn't asked about. Many of the questions focus on eating patterns and behaviors and the specific methods they use to cut weight. Researchers' insight. After reviewing the results, the scientists identified a few key themes that contributed to disordered eating practices in the female powerlifters' perception of their bodies. Keeping silent about their weight-cutting concerns. Powerlifting culture normalizes pre-competition weight-cutting practices that would typically be considered disordered. Dehydration and water cutting. Laxative use. Excessive cardio. Several calorie and or carbohydrate restriction. As if trying to drop weight wasn't difficult enough, participants reported feeling embarrassed and stigmatized when they struggled with the psychological fallout of cutting calories. Fear of harsh judgment from coaches and competitors, particularly male ones, prevented the female powerlifters from expressing their concerns. Some also felt they wouldn't be taken seriously if they did. Dangerous cycles of undereating, overeating, and purging. High-level powerlifters face two incompatible challenges. It takes a lot of food to support their intense training and allow them to recover between workouts. Their best chance of winning comes in a lower weight class, which means eating less food in the weeks before competition. But after the weigh-in, the participants describe binging as reward for all the hard work they put in, or a consolation prize if they didn't make weight. The cycle of self-starvation and binging and purging led to negative thoughts about their bodies and themselves, according to the study participants. Feeling like a hostage to their diet and their coach's rule. Participants said adherence to their diet can become all-consuming. Though some of the women felt a sense of control when using food tracking apps, others expressed the opposite sentiment. They couldn't enjoy social occasions or think about anything other than their next meal. Some participants described coaches who imposed inflexible diet rules and made them feel guilty if they couldn't stick to them. As one woman put it, if your coach has more control over what you're putting into your body than you do, then that's problematic. Who the powerlifter sees when she looks in the mirror. Some female powerlifters struggled with a disconnect between the strong, muscular body they need for their sport and the leaner, lighter body that matches their idea of a feminine physique. The tension between those contrasting body images sometimes fuel a desire to compete at a lower weight class, even if it means eating in a disordered way. Others embrace the body developed through powerlifting and relish the freedom to perform at their best, regardless of their weight class. Here are some coaching takeaways. The study looked at elite powerlifters, so it's a small sample size and not necessarily indicative of what happens with all competitive powerlifters. It is, however, a reminder that athletes can be at risk for disordered eating and that the environment that they need to be in has both a positive and negative influence on them. Number 2, embrace the good things that come with heavy lifting. Powerlifting is largely habit or practice based. You make small, meaningful improvements over time and reap the benefits. To do well in any sport, you need to have an almost addictive love for it and crave the training, the discipline, and all that goes along with it. So powerlifting helps women channel strong personality traits into a positive pursuit or pathway. Number 3, until an athlete reaches a high level, weight class doesn't matter. It's best to focus instead on what is needed to perform well: strength, muscle mass, some body fat. You don't get extra points for being the leanest lifter on the platform. Good nutrition and full recovery. Number 4, when weight class does matter, have rules about when and how much to cut. It's best to have a pre-competition cutoff for weight reduction. For example, if someone was still 5 pounds over their weight class with 2 weeks to go, it would be advised not to try to make weight. For one, cutting weight so fast would compromise the lifter's strength and they wouldn't be able to compete at their best. But for another, this pre-competition cutoff also discourages any tendencies toward disordered eating or unhealthy attitudes about their bodies. Thank you for getting so far into this video. If you like the content and like what you're hearing, please like and subscribe. So, my final thoughts on this: like anything else, there needs to be a balance. And there needs to be specific trade-offs and sacrifices that make sense to you and those around you, both internally and externally. What I mean by that is a lot of these power lifters, they're following someone else's regime, right? They're following a coach's program, coach's plan. The coaches have specific cues, specific eyes on what the athlete is doing. But in the case of the athletes in this research, they need to speak up. There needs to be an open communication between the athlete and the coach, where if what the coach is asking the athlete to do makes it stressful, makes it uncomfortable, then there needs to be a conversation, because there's always a better way of doing things. I feel like athletes are so accustomed to put their head down and listen to what the coach is saying, but then we hear about it later that, the athlete went through so much stress, so much trauma, so much issues that it ended up crippling them in the long run. So, rule of thumb, if you have something to say, say it. Don't hold it in. Don't deal with it, especially when it comes to competition, especially if you need to perform at your best, and you have to perform at your best. Otherwise, there's no point of it. What's the point of working so hard and pushing yourself to the limits just for you to fall short of it, for something that could be remedied or could be fixed or could be for the better? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's programming, whether it's just overall health and fitness, when in doubt, change things. If it doesn't work, we live in such a micro society where we want things to happen now, but we forget that it's a process, it's a step. Take the time you need. You get to balance things out, because being an athlete means your sleep needs to be in check, your food intake needs to be in there. You got to make sure that you're not overdoing. And you forgot about the other aspect of it, right? The non-fitness stuff, right? Relationships with family, relationships with friends, relationships with loved ones. We have to look at it collectively as a big picture. Your health and fitness and wellness is an overall, overarching big picture. Everything matters. Everything really does matter, because one thing affects the other. You can't do your best if other things are lingering in the back of your mind. And over time, it starts to introduce yourself, or it starts to introduce in front of you more and more and more. So, biggest takeaway is have a balance with yourself. Have a proper balance and procedures and boundaries, whether it's with fitness, whether it's with nutrition, whether it's with mental stability and making sure that you're in the right place, right mindset. So those are my thoughts. Please let me know your thoughts below in the video, and looking forward to seeing the next one. Take care. Bye.